scheduled, and so I want to make sure I get it recorded for everybody. You will have plenty of time to ask questions as we go through a couple of the pieces. But my name is Terry Maxwell. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Confidence is something that I've studied, and mindset is something that I've studied. I'm going to be sharing with you some of those works today. If you're not a member of SHIFCO, you're participating in what we call community events. We do several events each month, and we do them for free because we want to help entrepreneurs be more successful in their business. So there's a couple events that are coming up in the next few weeks. June 4th is going to be a methodology called Business Simple. And what Business Simple is how do you get out of the rut of get the work, do the work, get the work, do the work. And then on June 13th, for those of you that have not gotten your business above 10K a month, we're going to be introducing something called the 10K challenge. All of these events are free. They're very powerful, as you're going to see today. You're going to walk away with real tools today that you can put in place. And it kind of leads me to my story of confidence, which to understand that story of confidence, you have to understand my career. I actually found out I was good at growing businesses, became president of an internet company. We did an internet IPO. Then I exited that business, started another business, sold it, and then I had this crazy idea that I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life and all of my assets to making a difference and making money. I started a purposeful Shark Tank called Share on Purpose. And we do two things. We cultivate our own businesses, but I also invest in conscious businesses as well. Succeed on Purpose was our first business that we started. So that's been up for, 15 years now. Ignite on Purpose was number 2. Promote on Purpose was number 3. Talent on Purpose was number 4. And then SHIFCO, which you're participating in a SHIFCO community event, was business number 5, in addition to those investments. So that's a little bit about my background, but I want to tie it back to confidence. So the part of my career that most people don't know is I'm a degreed educator. And when I became a teacher, I taught middle school. Crazy, I know. I wanted to save kids and save the world. And I had had a very, very difficult life, beaten and abused in every way possible, very, very poor. And so there were a couple of teachers that helped save me, honestly. One even gave me food, and another let me stay in her house. So I wanted to give back because of those teachers that had really helped me. So that's one of the reasons why I became a teacher. And ironically, we use our careers, we use our family, and we use sometimes things, we use our businesses to validate our worth. And I was doing the same thing. I was using my career. I'm a teacher, I'm going to make the world better, to make me feel better about myself. And when I left the classroom and went into the business world, working for a company called Jostens Learning, I found I had this natural gift for business. So I went from being a teacher to being in an educational software business. I found out I had this natural gift for business. And just like I did when I was a teacher, I began to now use my career. Instead of being focused on giving back, I became focused on being successful as a way of making me feel better about myself. And that trend continued. I was president of that internet company that did the IPO, which was a really, really cool experience. So I'm on the cover of magazine. We've got a NASDAQ IPO. Surely now I feel good about myself. Still didn't. So now I'll say, oh, I'll start a business and I'll show the world just how smart I am. So I built about a 40-person consulting company called Latimark. Was very successful, but I still didn't feel good about myself. So this trend of not feeling good about myself continued. And I decided one day that I was going to figure out what confidence really was, and that I never, ever again wanted to feel like I was less than other people. I was tired of chasing success to make me feel better. I was tired of being afraid to fail, because I was running from my fear of failure as much as I was trying to prove that I was good enough. And I just became tired of it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to confidence school. And so I started studying ad nauseum, testing things to make myself feel more confident. That's where it all started. So what I found in that journey is there's actually 4 types of confidence, and that's the tricky part. What we think is confidence is not really what true confidence is. So I'm going to break that down today, and you're going to walk away with these tools today. I'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the recording. And then the second thing that I found was how we stay in our comfort zone as a way of making us feel better about ourselves. But unfortunately, that comfort zone keeps us from finding confidence. It's actually through pushing out of the comfort zone that we build confidence. And from that, I built something called the Pure Confidence Framework and the Pure Confidence Model, which is a strategy to identify where your confidence is not where you want it to be and change it. And then if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about Shiftco and how we help our the members who are change makers grow their business. So let's start with these 4 types of confidence. When we think of confidence, we think of somebody who looks like they've got it all together, somebody who doesn't get flustered easily. They can make a mistake and dust themselves off. Well, if you really break down those 4 types of confidence, one of the most important areas, which is mental, is called developmental confidence. Developmental confidence is learning how to do new things. I have very weak developmental confidence. Anytime I have to do something new that I don't know how to do, play golf, as an example, I've been struggling with that for over a decade because I don't know how to hit the ball. And every time somebody asks me to play golf, I just break out in a cold sweat because I feel like I can't do it. And I've learned a lot of things in my life, but if I'm afraid I don't know how to do it, I really get flustered. So developmental confidence is one type of confidence that you need. The second type of mental confidence is called performance. And performance confidence is improving your ability to perform, getting better at something you already know how to do. I have great performance confidence, very weak developmental confidence. And as I go through all 4 of these, feel free to drop in the chat, which ones you think are your weak areas, because what we're really talking about today is identifying those parts of ourselves that are not confident and beginning to go after it and change it. So this idea, one of the reasons why most of my life I felt unconfident, and I tried to prove that I was confident, was because I had weak developmental confidence. Anything I didn't know how to do, I would avoid. But I had this gift for performance that once I do know how to do something, I'll become great at it if I choose to. It's the purple areas, though, where real confidence really is. Emotional confidence is knowing how to manage your emotions, how to recognize when you're afraid, how to understand what your signs of anxiousness are. And emotional confidence, I did not even remotely understand emotional confidence until I became an entrepreneur in 2002, my first business. Being in business pushes every fear to the surface, and it doesn't just stop when your business starts to grow. There's always something new to be afraid of as an entrepreneur. It's scary. So you have to develop emotional confidence, and I'm going to give you a very powerful methodology today to do that, in a way to identify where your buttons get pushed, so that you can manage your emotional state. And then the last type of confidence I call soulful confidence. And it for me, what it means is just trusting that there's a higher force towards good, trusting the flow of life, trusting whatever you want to call that higher force. I don't want to get into debating that right now, but just trusting that things are always working out, that when one door closes, another opens. And so I call that soulful confidence. Let me give you an example of each of these four types of confidence as they would show up in your life as an entrepreneur. So the first one is developmental. If you don't already know this, one of the most important things you're going to have to learn to be successful is how to market and sell yourself, what we call demand generation. So you're going to have to learn demand generation. There's no way, like it's first base. If you think of a diamond and your first base, second base, third base, fourth base, you've got to learn demand generation. It's first base. You don't get to second base unless you learn how to grow demand for your business. So if you have developmental confidence like I did, my first business in 2002, I struggled for 2 years. I barely made 20 to $30,000 a year. I mean, I was digging into my 401k. I mean, it was horrible because I had this developmental confidence issue and I was afraid to learn how to market and sell, how to generate demand for my business. And so I meandered around for 2 years with tons and tons of failure because I struggle with developmental confidence. Another example would be performance confidence. So performance confidence is, hey, my business is going a little bit. I've got the demand figured out. Now I need to improve how the business is differentiated. So that I have a little bit of differentiation, but I need to make it better. I need to make it so that my target market wants to work with me. So that would be an example of performance. Emotional confidence is, hey, I've got a lead call. So I have a lead call actually where we're presenting a proposal for one of our businesses today. And so I'm presenting this proposal. Wow, I'm feeling anxious, and I know why I'm feeling anxious, because we're going to be presenting this proposal and we really want to win this deal because it's a conscious company and we really want to represent them. So emotional confidence is recognizing that that meeting is coming up in an hour and a half and I'm feeling anxious about it. And I know why I'm feeling anxious about it, but I'm going to take control of my emotions and change my emotional state. That would be an emotional confidence. Soulful confidence is trusting that even the most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur can lead to very positive outcomes, that every failure is just a stepping stone. So that gives you an example of the four types of confidence. What I have found is to be successful, period, but certainly as an entrepreneur, the two that you really need to build are emotional and soulful confidence. Those are the two that are the most important. Now, before we go to the next piece, which is a tool to address these four areas, does anybody have any questions or anything you want to share before I give you a tool to address these four areas? All right, well, I'm going to keep going. So this next tool, I did not create this, but it is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. And it basically is a strategy wheel for how do you increase your confidence, particularly emotional confidence, and I think all of the others. So I'm going to put it here where it's nice and solid. So what happens is when, as humans, our ego likes to keep us very safe. So we like to stay in this comfort zone. And anytime we go to do anything new, anything, play golf, go to a networking event to meet new people, we are moving from the comfort zone to the fear zone. And we all have had this happen. And, lose weight, work out, start dating again after a breakup, you could name anything. And so what starts to happen is we feel fear and we run back to the comfort zone. And as a result of that, we never build confidence. So confidence is actually built when you press forward through the fear zone and you say, as I did, I'm not going to accept that I don't feel confident. There's got to be a way for me to find my confidence. And I thought it was something I had to look for. There has to be a way to feel and find my confidence. So what happens is when we press through that fear, because I've been running from my lack of self-worth my whole life, when we push through that fear zone and we say, you know what, I'm going to learn confidence, guess what happens? All of a sudden we grow confidence. Or let's say in your business, you say, I'm tired of my business being where it is. I'm going to learn how to market and sell. When you press through that fear, and it's scary to learn how to do those things, when you press through that fear and you start to build new skills, lo and behold, confidence goes up. And it doesn't matter what the skill is. The skill could be playing golf. The skill could be sales and marketing. It could be differentiation. It could be understanding your financial statements. It could be mindset. It could be anything. The key is you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to push yourself through the fear zone into the learning zone. And when you do that, that's how you build confidence. Confidence isn't something you find. You build confidence by moving out of the comfort zone, moving through the fear zone, and moving into the learning zone. And then once you're in the learning zone, developmental confidence or performance confidence take over. And the next thing you know, you're on your way. So that's a very, very powerful tool. And I use it all the time, both with the people I'm coaching, as well as with myself. Okay, so now let me get to another set of tools that I created. This one is hard. I'm just going to prepare you. It might push your buttons, and if it does, I just want you to breathe, because what I found in my research, first for myself, is that confidence is kind of hidden from us. Kind of, if you think of confidence as like the pot of gold, it's hidden from us behind all of these layers of awareness about what's really happening. And I did a lot of research on this, 2005, 2010, 2015, 2020, and I refined it and tested it. And here's what I found. So most of our perceptions about what's happening to us are occurring in the conscious mind, where we're aware of what's happening. And anything that's perceived there can be dealt with. So I'm going to use this little bottle of water. I'm staying in a hotel. I was thirsty, so I grabbed a bottle of water. I'm conscious that this is a bottle of water. I'm conscious that I want to recycle this bottle of water. I can deal with that. The challenge with confidence is most of our barriers are at the subconscious or the unconscious level. And in particular, the subconscious level is very tricky because our emotions and our thoughts hide from us. And that's one of the reasons why we watch TV and why we eat, because we're hiding from some of these thoughts and emotions. And so the thoughts and emotions are at this subconscious level, and we're usually not aware of them. Okay. And then the barriers, the real troublemakers, the things that are holding us back, that are anchoring us to mediocrity, that are anchoring us to not living a full and prosperous life. Most of those are at the unconscious level, and I call them barriers. And a barrier is just a repeated belief that's blocking your success. So you're probably saying, well, Terry, this isn't a big deal. That makes total sense. It's based on some research. I get that. Well, here's the part, though, that might push your button. What I found is that these levels, these barriers that exist on these three levels, they're compacted. And so let's look at the conscious layer first. So at the conscious layer, the 5 most common barriers that we're aware of is time management. So if you're a person who is late, or if you're a person who over schedules or underestimates how long something takes, you have a time management issue. Well, that's a barrier, but it's a barrier at the conscious level. We're typically aware of it. Trust and confidence. If you're distrustful, if you lack confidence in areas of your life, you're aware of that. So you've got some degree of awareness that exists. Perfectionism, those of you that are obsessive compulsive perfectionists, that you've been told it, you see it, that everything has to be perfect, everything's in a place. Willingness to act. Willingness to act is very sneaky, but we tend to know, if I'm afraid to take the next step, that's willingness to act. And then fear and addiction. So addiction, my drug of choice is food. And I've had a very stressful couple of weeks because I had a death in the family. And lo and behold, when I really look at my diet this past week, I had cookies, I had candy, I had a chicken sandwich and fries. So I know what's happening at a conscious level is I'm using food to kind of soothe my emotions. Okay. So you're like, well, Terry, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I get it, and they pushed my buttons a little bit, but that's not that big of a deal. Well, let's go a little deeper. What I found is that these 5 at the top, which are the most common that we are aware of, there's 5 more underneath it. And they're truly underneath it. So they're packed on top of each other, as you'll see here in a minute. Self-awareness is when we ignore what we need to work on. Fear of others would be fear of what other people think. So if I'm afraid of what other people think of me, I'm always second guessing myself. That is a subconscious barrier. What that means is I have thoughts and emotions about it that I'm not fully aware of. It's kind of running in the background. It's a program. I'm afraid of what other people think of me. Need to be right or afraid to be wrong, however you want to say that. Need to control. So that's a subconscious barrier. So you might be feeling a little stress coming up as we go through these. Just breathe. So need to control. If I am a controller because of those horrible things that happened to me as a child, I want to control my environment. I want to control time. I want to control life. And so I know I've got that issue, but it's kind of playing on a track on my subconscious level. And then, of course, fear of failure. And as an entrepreneur, your fear of failure buttons are going to get pushed constantly. And it doesn't change just because your business gets above 10K a month, it gets to 30K a month. Fear of failure does not go away. Don't think that it does for a second. You've got to learn how to manage it. So these 5 are at the subconscious level. What that means is we're not really aware that we're having the thoughts and we're having the emotions connected to these barriers. And remember, a barrier is just a thought that you're continuing to think. So you might be feeling a little stress right now. So just breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, because there's 4 more. And the 4, and this is both good news and bad news that I'm going to share with you, all of the other barriers map back to these 4. So all of these other 10 barriers that you see, forget about them, because it's the 4 at the bottom that are the real challenges. So let's go through those. They're at an unconscious level. We are usually not aware that this barrier is running us. The first 2 are sneaky. So fear of success, if you sabotage your success. I had a big fear of success barrier most of my life. Fear of success is when you sabotage your success right about the time something is about to work, you sabotage it. Very, very sneaky one. Need to know is also sneaky, a very, very destructive barrier. Need to know is I need to know how this is going to work out before I take the next step. I need to know I'm going to be successful before I take the next step. Whew. And then the 2 that you probably will recognize, because everybody, and I've studied thousands and thousands of people as I was building this tool for these barriers, is not good enough and self-worth. Everybody has either not good enough and or self-worth. Everybody. I thousands and thousands of people, when we tested them, and I do have a test, by the way, that tests these barriers. Everybody had them, right? So the challenge is these barriers are running us. Whew, they are running our actions, they are running our thoughts, they are running our emotions, and we are not fully aware that they are doing it. So back to my example of I've had this very stressful week because I had a death in the family, and here I am eating unhealthy. Why am I doing that? Because I have a need to control. Why am I doing that? Because deep down inside, I'm afraid I'm not good enough. And this pain that I'm feeling from this loss is pushing my buttons. And lo and behold, that pattern is running me. So just take a minute, because this is hard. This is hard stuff, but I'm going to show you how you change this, where you don't have to be beholden to these barriers. And again, if you're feeling lots of anxiety, just breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. So what I found in my research is the most important first step is to identify which barriers are yours. And in particular, if you can identify the pattern. So let me put them up here and show you what I mean by that pattern. If you can identify, hey, I've got a perfectionism, because that's easy to see and it's easy to accept, right? Our society knows that we have perfectionism issues. Okay, go a little deeper. The truth is, I need to be perfect because I want to control my surroundings. Oh, okay. And then breathe. You feel that pressure coming up. The truth is, I feel like I need to control my surroundings because there's a part of me that feels not good enough. Not all of me, but there's a part of me that feels not good enough. And the way that you deconstruct these barriers is you just say the phrase, the truth is, you know, I'm pressured by this perfectionism because why, and then see what's underneath it. It'll be on that level too, at the subconscious level. And then you go a little deeper and say, the truth is I need to control because, and it could be something else. It could be any combination, but they're going to stack, kind of like the elbows connected to the forearm, the forearms connected to the hand. It's kind of like that. They're connected. Now, here's the good news. When you deconstruct these, even though it really presses your buttons because you're moving into that fear zone that we talked about a minute ago, when you look at these, all of a sudden they start to break down. It's kind of like when you're a little kid and you thought there was a monster under the bed, and then you got your flashlight and you went under the bed and you saw there wasn't a monster. That's kind of what happens is when you call these barriers out from the recesses of your subconscious and unconscious mind and just look at them and just own them, they start to fall apart. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of other tools here in a minute to address them. But the most important thing from my research, if you want to feel more confident, which I think is as critical as an entrepreneur, we have to build confidence. We have to evolve to be successful as an entrepreneur. The most important thing that you're going to have to do is deconstruct what barrier pattern is running you and call the monster out from under the bed. Now, before I get into a couple of tools that you can use, let me just see. Laura said that's me. Thank you for owning that. Questions about these. And again, if you want the quiz, I can get you the quiz so you can test yourself. But questions about these before I get into a couple of tools to help you address them.
Terry, I have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I get the conscious, subconscious, unconscious. Are they always that linear, or does sometimes it go conscious, subconscious, then pop back up? Yeah.
Great question. So let me take that off of there. They always go in 3 layers, but sometimes they double up. So sometimes it'll look like you have both of these here, and it's connected to fear of failure, and then that's connected to willingness to act. So it's kind of hard to draw this. So sometimes they double up like that, or sometimes they go 2 directions. So sometimes not good enough is afraid what other people think, trust and confidence, but it's also fear of failure and fear and addiction, like that. Does that make sense? But they always go in 3 layers. It's just that sometimes they double up and sometimes there's 2 legs to it.
Thank you.
Other questions?
And you say you're going to give us a tool to solve this, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, Lisa, if you could put, it's either on the Shifco website or on the Succeed website, if you could put the fear of quiz, it's a very, very powerful tool. We spent about 2 years of research working with a researcher to test how people self-identified, and then when they took the quiz to dial it in. And so Lisa will drop that assessment tool, and it will tell you which of these is your number one barrier. And you're always going to
Yeah.
start with one. So for example, every year, rather than setting goals for myself, I set elimination. Which of these four am I going to be working on? 2 years ago, it was fear of success. This past year was self-worth. So every year at New Year's, rather than just setting goals, I set elimination. I'm going to work on one of these barriers. I'm going to read, I'm going to study, I'm going to take classes. So the key though is identifying and owning them. When we run from them, coming back to, let me just pull that back up here for a second. When we stay in our comfort zone and we run from them, we don't get anywhere. It's like running on a treadmill. I'm running, but I'm not getting anywhere. So what we have to do to tackle these is you have to identify which of those is your number one. And then you've got to start working on it, and you got to push through that fear zone. And it's uncomfortable at first. And I'm going to give you a tool to deal with the fear. And then you start working on some new skills. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, that wasn't a big deal. And that's what I've learned about these 14 barriers. The first time I started with the first round of research, we had 26. And I was looking at these, I'm like, I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, right? I had all this stuff going in my head. And then I was like, okay, let me just identify which of these barriers are mine, breathe. Okay, set it aside. Now let me just pick one and let me just work on one of these at a time. And that's what I've done. It's like peeling the layers back. But if we don't identify them, we got to look under the bed and see, got to call the monster out from under the bed, got to shine the flashlight under the bed. We're scared. Oh my God, there's a monster. I just know it. Shine the flashlight. Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a barrier. Okay. If we don't do that, if we don't do that identification process, then nothing changes and our lives don't get markedly better. So the key is barrier identification. You've got to know which of these you have. Doesn't matter if you have all of them. The quiz that Lisa put in the chat for you will tell you which is it'll give you like your top three. Pick one and just say, I'm going to start reading books on this. I'm going to take classes on this. I'm going to do whatever I can to solve this. But I'm not going to be held back by this fear that I'm not good enough anymore. The other thing I want to say, and then I'll stop for questions again. Every single issue that you have maps back to one of these four. And I've been now researching this for 16, 17 years. Every single issue, relationship issue, business issue, money issues, health issues, map back to these four. So our society teaches us to work on these guys up here. But just imagine how fast we would grow if we started tackling one of these. And like I said, every year I pick one of these, and that is what I'm working on for that year. And I dedicate my life to making it better, because all of the other junk maps back to those four. So questions before we go to and add a couple of tools.
Terry, my question, well, it's more of a comment because mine is definitely fear of success. I've been working on all the others. And then it got crystal clear when I identified someone that I envied, and it was Taylor Swift. I'm not a Swiftie, but my fear is that when people are successful, people are going to come for you. It's like you have a target on your back. And I mean, it was really, I saw it when people started, attributing conspiracy theories to Taylor Swift of all people. And I was like, that's crazy. She's just singing her songs, right? And, but because of bad stuff that's happened in my past, Yeah, mine was more time management, need to control than fear of success. Because
Yeah, so,
I
but
don't have
here's
eyes
the
in the back
thing.
of my head to see them coming.
Yeah, so the thing that I would encourage you to look at is if you decided, hey, I am not going to give a flip about what anybody thinks, it would be way easier to deal with fear of success. So
Yes.
that's why I feel like there's a connection to fear of what other people think or do. That's why I say fear of others. Is if you began to really build your emotional confidence and your soulful confidence and you just stopped giving a flip what people thought or did, that fear of success would start to shrink because it's connected
Yeah,
and it's a
I'm pretty
pattern.
much, yeah, I love that saying, you know, what other people think of me isn't none of my business. But there's just something about when it gets into my business, because I think because it feels so personal, like my livelihood depends on it and everything. And you know, if it's about other stuff, you know, where I volunteer or things like that, I don't really care. You know, it's just not your flavor, that's fine. But yeah, I just just
So the
very
key is,
interesting.
so now let's just start looking at it. Oh, there it is again, fear of success. Do I
Yes.
really want to be held back by that anymore?
No.
Or do I want to challenge it, right? Do I really want to um, run around thinking about other people damaging me? Or do I want to learn how not to do that anymore? Like it's that looking at it, identifying and looking at it that begins to
Mhm.
break it down.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Thank you
great.
for
This is
sharing.
perfect.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing. Other questions or comments? Because this is the hard part, right? We're going to get into a couple of tools here in a minute to make you feel better, but this is the hard part. But other questions?
Terry, I have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
So, as I was listening to you talk about these different levels, and this is fascinating. As an organizational psychologist, I'm drinking this all up, not just because I really also want to do something with my business, but anyway, but my question is, and maybe your assessment will help, is, how, how do we know to what extent we're actually gaming or fooling ourselves with this stuff? Like, I'm sure I have the not good enough and the self-worth stuff going on. Fear of success, how do I know if I don't know what I don't know?
Yeah, great question. So the way that you're going to know is when you are ruled by your inner state and not an external state, meaning
Okay.
somebody can hurt you, somebody can do you wrong, a client could leave, you could not win a deal, you could mess up a speaking engagement, and you're fine. That's how you know. And so when that, if that's our standard of evolution, where our external life is not affecting our internal state, and you think, for me, I can still think of all the times when I get wigged out by those things. Now they're less and less. I don't spiral for hours anymore or anything like that, but they're still there. If a speaking engagement doesn't go well, or I get an email from a client, we have a very large client in one of our businesses. I got an email from him last week and I was like, oh no, and for 30 minutes I was kind of, yeah, so I know I still have work to do, right? So that's the key, is when you pay attention to your inner state constantly, and you're constantly scanning, and something happens externally and you're not affected by it, that's how you know that it's no longer an issue.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Other questions? That was a great one.
Terry,
Thank
could
you.
you explain need to know one more time? Is that need to have certainty about outcomes, or need to know the facts of a situation, or both those things? Or
Both those things. Need to know is tricky. So I need to know how this is going to work out before I take the next step. We don't trust our intuition. I need to know that I'm going to win this deal for me to put all of my heart and soul into it. I need to know my business is going to be successful before I start. I need to know everything about this person before I get into a relationship with them. So need to know is very, very tricky, and very elusive, but it's a pattern of really not trusting yourself. So if you look, I don't have time too much to get into this, But underneath all of these is the ego's fear that it's powerless to change things. When you do the full Pure Confidence program, I show you how to break that. But this idea with need to know is the ego is afraid if I don't know all of the facts, if I don't check everything ad nauseum, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to, look foolish or something along those lines. And so need to know is very tricky. And it's very deadly as an entrepreneur because the 99% of the things that you're going to do, you're not going to know how to do them. And you're 99% of the things you're going to have to figure out, you're not going to know where to start because there's so much uncertainty in business. So it's more than uncertainty. It's an obsessive need to have all the facts, to get everything right, thinking I can make it perfect. And thinking that, if I just know a little more information, I can keep myself from making a mistake. Doesn't work as an entrepreneur.
Well, thanks. I needed to know that. And as an observation, my top Clifton strength is learner. So that definitely seems to set me up for this need to know unconscious driver as well.
Yeah,
I need to
because
know everything about everything.
Our greatest strength is almost always our Achilles heel. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the tools. So if you've heard me do Success Switch, a lot of research has gone into this. It's the simplest and easy thing because what it does is it activates a part of your brain. We're going to do it really fast, but if you like it, go on our YouTube page and look for the Success Switch, the whole training, and you go through the whole training on it. Tons of research to back this up. But what the Success Switch does is it turns on a part of your brain that overrides the barrier. Okay, now it doesn't heal the barrier. You're going to have to do some work to heal the barrier, but it does turn it off and it flips on another switch. So, and I highly encourage you to use this. Our research has found if you do it 2 to 3 times a day, 7 days a week, you can really minimize the effect of that barrier. Again, if you like this when we do it here today, go on the YouTube page. There's a full 40-minute training just on the Success Switch. So the first thing that you do is you acknowledge whatever the fear is. So you say, the truth is, I feel afraid. I feel anxious, whatever it is. So you say, the truth is, I feel, and whatever comes up, and you want to say it out loud. Try it with me here in a minute. After I walk you through the 3 steps, we'll do them together. But the truth is, I feel, and whatever comes up, comes up. And then you pause. You're going to pause for about 15 seconds. What that does is it causes the amygdala to stop running whatever the program is. So the amygdala kind of like starts to downshift. You'll feel it here in a minute. Boop, 10th gear, 5th gear, 3rd gear. Oh, wow. And you'll feel like this coming down. And then the amygdala says, okay, prefrontal cortex, who's kind of like the boss of the brain, give me new information. You told me to stop this program, give me new information. So that's acknowledge. And then after you acknowledge, you're going to breathe 4 breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. What that does is the prefrontal cortex turns on the parasympathetic nervous system and it floods your brain and your body and your cells with serotonin and dopamine, the good, happy chemicals. And now the amygdala starts to feel good and it kind of relaxes. And then C is you're going to claim a new belief. You're going to visualize it with some images. You're going to feel as if it's real. So let's try it. So make sure you're on mute so that you can, I want you to do it out loud because you really need to do this out loud. So we're going to start with the A. The truth is, I feel, and for me, I'm going to say tired. Truth is, I feel tired. Whatever comes up, just wait. And you're going to feel yourself kind of winding down. That's the amygdala slowing down. Wait about 15 seconds till it stops running you. And now you're going to take 4 breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Here we go. Breath number 1. You'll notice right away your blood pressure changing. The prefrontal cortex is shooting dopamine and serotonin into your bloodstream. Breath number 2. You already are feeling better, but we need to really, really fill the amygdala up with these happy chemicals. Breath number 3. And breath number 4. Now this amygdala is kind of, you kind of might even feel a little loopy, right? It's kind of like mushy with all of these happy chemicals, and what it was running isn't running anymore. So now we want to install a new belief. And so, and you're going to say whatever the opposite is. So I said I was tired. I'm going to claim a new belief. And I'm going to say, actually, I'm energized. And I'm going to picture myself, visualizing my energy. I'm feeling as if it's real. And you really want to get your mind, your body into the new belief. If you said, the truth is, I'm afraid, you're going to give the exact opposite. You're going to claim this new belief. I'm actually powerful. And you're going to picture kind of some rocky punches. And for just about 30 seconds, you claim that new belief and see how you feel. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to play with that. And then we're going to talk about what's happening. And then I'm going to give you one more tool. So the reason why the success switch is so impactful is because we're using your brain and we're using your parasympathetic nervous system to override that barrier. And we're literally switching it off because that barrier is stuck in the amygdala, and we're turning on your power. That's why I call it the success switch. So we're flipping off the barrier and we're turning on the power. All you got to do from our research to do this 2 to 3 times a day, 7 days a week, that barrier will be minimized. Okay. It doesn't completely go away until we heal it, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it stops running you, which is really what we're going for. So that's what we call the success switch. Again, there's a full on our YouTube page. There's a full 40-minute training on just this, but that's the basic for it. To heal it, to get it gone for good, here's the process. I call this a pure confidence model. 1 is make a commitment to yourself to simply evolve. If you really think about it, if I want to be twice as good as I am, if I want to be twice as good 1 year from now as I am today, I just need to get 1/3 of 1% better every day. And that's the way I live my life. Every day, I want to get 1/3 of 1% better. 365 days from now, I'm going to be twice as good. So the commitment to evolve puts these barriers on notice. I'm coming for you, fear of success. I'm coming for you, not good enough. I'm coming for you, self-worth. I'm coming for you, net worth. I'm not going to tackle all of you at one time, but one at a time. This year, I'm working on this barrier. I'm coming for you. When you put them on notice, they are a lot easier to start to break down. Then the second thing is you got to own your stuff. Don't ever blame anybody else. Don't ever blame a relationship. Don't blame a client. Don't blame the economy. You've got to own your stuff, because these barriers show up in our business. They are all over our business. So you got to own it. You got to take responsibility for your role. That's why the knowing what your barriers are is so important. Third thing is just learn how to release it. Just a little bit every day, a little bit each week, a little bit every month. You got to begin to release it through using things like the success switch and some other tools that I'll talk about. And then lastly is take control of your energy. Learn how to change your state. Music, mood, movement. Those are the 3 M's of state: music, mood, movement. Learn how to elevate your energy so you're feeling good. That's the process. And then remember, last but not least, get out of your comfort zone. So when you first start to get out of your comfort zone, it's going to be hard. You're going to feel all of the resistance because you're feeling afraid. Press forward. Keep going, because on the other side of the fear zone is the learning zone. And if you'll just get Curious George out there and just say, I'm going to learn more about this not good enough thing, and I'm going to tackle it. This is the year I cracked the not good enough thing. If you can just press through that, the fear zone will actually shrink and the learning zone will get better. Okay, so that's how it works. I do want to just let you know that if you do join ShiftCo, which the cost for that is $235 a month if you're in Launch and Shape, what we will give you is the Pure Confidence program. So you'll get Pure Confidence, you'll get Success Accelerator, you'll get Prosperity Challenge. So if you feel like I'm ready to tackle this, we will put you through the full Pure Confidence program. It starts in July. In addition to training you how to run your business, we will also train you how to remove these blocks, give you more tools than I even gave you today. And to let you know how successful ShiftCo is, as of December of last year, 84.9% of our members more than doubled their income. Most of them did it in less than a year. Part of why that is because we work on confidence and mindset and elevating energy. So the Pure Confidence program is something that I've been delivering through Succeed on Purpose for a long time. It is included in your membership, and we will crack these barriers and teach you the full-on methodology. Hopefully I've given you enough tools to help you get going with it today. Use the success switch. Let me just put that back up here. Twice, 2 to 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You will mitigate that barrier. Try it. It's unbelievably successful. Remember to push yourself through the comfort zone, push yourself out of the fear zone and into the learning zone, and you can crack those barriers. Let me go ahead and pause and wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for joining. I'm going to stop the recording and see if there's any questions.